After the death of Gojo, everyone hoped for his return, but we waited too long, and Gojo never came back. Now, with Sukuna massacring everyone, Todo and Yuji finally confront him. However, another unexpected character makes their comeback. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Chapter begins with Todo revealing that he replaced his missing left hand with a vibroslap. By modifying the conditions for activating Boogie Woogie, changing it from a clap to the metal piece striking the box, Todo can now perform around 50 swaps per second. As he strikes the instrument, the three sorcerers begin to swap positions rapidly, like a roulette wheel. As the vibroslap stops rattling, Sukuna and Yuji prepare to strike each other, only for Todo to hit the instrument again, swapping their positions, allowing him and Yuji to land a safe hit on Sukuna. Through a binding vow that limits the number of swaps per strike, Todo can target multiple people with Boogie Woogie and extend its range. It's revealed that Todo, with Yuta Okatsu's help, refined his curse technique in the Lake Gojo colony, which helped them all escape Sukuna's malevolent shrine. Sukuna finds Todo's unpredictable, self-centered fighting style to be a nuisance. Todo swaps Sukuna's position, sending him to the bottom of a crater, before leaping into it and swapping places again, leaving Sukuna airborne. Todo tries to kick Sukuna while he's vulnerable, but Sukuna evades by using the air as footing, a skill that impresses Todo. The battle intensifies, with Todo continuously using Boogie Woogie to protect Yuji from attacks and create openings to strike Sukuna. The position swaps make it nearly impossible for Sukuna to adjust, especially since Todo can change the number of swaps per tap. However, Sukuna notices that Yuji's focus sharpens just before a position shift, allowing him to anticipate the timing. As Sukuna and Yuji prepare to punch each other, Sukuna believes Todo will faint and not swap Yuji, just like during Yuji's showdown with Mahito. Suddenly, one of Mei's crows appears behind Sukuna. Misreading the situation and thinking Todo plans to swap Yuji with the crow, Sukuna turns and kicks the crow just as Todo strikes his vibroslap, but no swap occurs. Sukuna's miscalculation costs him, as Yuji lands a black flash punch directly to his chest. With fury in his eyes, Yuji digs his fingers into Sukuna's chest, trying to tear out his heart. Sukuna forms a hand sign, preparing to cast his domain expansion once again. Even with his cursed energy reduced to Yuta's level, his efficiency is so high that he could continuously expand his domain once his burnt-out technique is recovered. But just as Sukuna is about to execute the move, he suddenly sees Satoru Gojo walking through the smoke. Remembering Choso, a furious Yuji roars as he digs his hand into Sukuna's chest, attempting to crush his heart. In response, the King of Curses tries to activate his domain expansion, but suddenly halts as he senses a presence in the smoke nearby. Sukuna is utterly baffled when he sees Satoru Gojo emerge from the haze. However, upon noticing the stitches across Gojo's forehead, Sukuna realizes what has been done. With a punch that sends Yuji flying, the King of Curses commends Yuta Okatsu for doing the unthinkable to defeat him. Yuta's plan to transplant his brain into Gojo's body after his defeat, using Kenjaku's technique, had initially been met with strong opposition. Maki Zenin feared the consequences of Rika's full manifestation reaching its time limit during the brain transplant. Mei hypothesized 3 possible outcomes, all of which would result in Yuta's death or his consciousness being trapped in Gojo's body forever. Yuta, however, agreed with Kinji Hikari that this plan would be their last resort, with the priority being to first try and defeat Sukuna in his domain. Despite this, the other sorcerers were opposed to the plan, with Atsuya Kusakabe deeming it unethical. Frustrated, Yuta argued that such extreme measures were necessary to take down Sukuna, pointing out the hypocrisy of labeling Gojo a monster while refusing to use monstrous tactics to win. He declared that if no one else would inherit his teacher's legacy, then he would. Sometime later, Yuta informed Gojo of his plan while walking through the jujutsu headquarters with the other second years. Gojo, although slightly annoyed that Shoko Yeri had no objections, agreed to the plan. During their conversation, Yuta brought up Takako Uro's comment about him being descended from the Fujiwara clan. Gojo insisted that Yuta was descended from the Sugawara clan instead, but speculated that Uro could be correct if Yuta was born from a higher-ranking family. He then lectured Yuta on cursed energy control before telling his students to leave when they reached a room, as he was about to deal with the higher-ups inside. However, the students refused, unwilling to let their teacher bear the burden of being a monster alone. At some point, Rinamai demonstrated his innate technique, which allowed him to manifest the sugar in his body externally in the form of pudding. Impressed, Shoko asked him to join her and Arata Nita on the medical team, so that he could assist with infusing Yuta's brain with sugar when it was time to activate his cursed technique. When Yuta was critically injured by Sukuna and brought to the medical ward, Shoko was suturing Gojo's body, while Arata used his cursed technique to stabilize him. With Rika's assistance, Yuta remained conscious, but was nearing his limit. He asked Shoko to help him transplant his brain. After finishing the suture, Shoko advised Yuta to use his reverse curse technique at maximum output, after transferring his brain to complete the treatment. Yuta then apologized to Rika for wearing his ring on his right hand. The strongest domains clash once again. Unlimited Void versus Malevolent Shrine. In the present, Yuta and Sukuna simultaneously activate their domain expansions. Armed with the knowledge of how to counter Sukuna's open barrier domain, left to him by his teacher, Yuta unleashes Unlimited Void, clashing it with Malevolent Shrine. The stage is set for their revenge match. Yuta and Sukuna simultaneously expand their domains, trapping themselves inside a barrier as small as a sports ball in front of Yuji Itadori and Aoi Todo. The shrunken Unlimited Void was Satoru Gojo's solution to Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine, able to withstand its slashing attacks from the outside for 3 minutes. Yuta achieved this by undergoing replacement training with Gojo to improve his barrier techniques, confident he could defeat the exhausted Sukuna within the 3-minute window, just like his sensei. To counter this, Sukuna also shrinks his domain's range to match Yuta's, thus removing the 99-second time limit for Malevolent Shrine. With only 3 minutes to work with, Yuta resolves to inflict enough damage to force Sukuna to drop his domain, while Sukuna aims to destroy Unlimited Void and widen his domain's range to kill the remaining sorcerers. Yuta prepares to use Cursed Technique Lapse, Blue, but before he can, Sukuna closes the distance and engages him in close combat. Shocked that Sukuna can make physical contact within the domain, Yuta takes several hits to the face and realizes that Sukuna is using domain amplification while his domain is still expanded. Sukuna confirms that the sorcerers have no idea what transpired inside the domains during his fight with Gojo, as Mei Mei's crows couldn't enter. Meanwhile, a fully manifested Rika cries as she cradles Yuta's original, now lifeless body, calling out to him. The battle between Yuta and Sukuna rages on. Gaining some distance, Yuta realizes he can only use Limitless since Rika did not follow him to Gojo's body. He speculates that Sukuna cannot unleash his world-cutting slash with just his right hands, leaving him with fewer options to bypass infinity beyond domain amplification. Despite holding the advantage, Yuta's punches miss, and Sukuna counters, exploiting Yuta's difficulty in controlling Gojo's long limbs and innate technique, despite undergoing replacement training. When Yuta misfires Blue, Sukuna mockingly asks if he can afford to waste any more time before knocking him away with a punch. Yuta attempts to use Blue again, but Sukuna is caught off guard by Yuta's strategy. Having been informed by Kenjaku of Yuta's copy technique and its limitations, Sukuna correctly deduces that Yuta can only use Limitless in his current state. Realizing Yuta intends to finish the fight before the copy's duration expires, Sukuna grows cautious, expecting him to use Hollow Technique, Purple. Remembering Gojo's lessons on cursed energy control, Yuta begins the chant for Hollow Purple and forms the hand signs. Before he can complete the incantation, Sukuna grabs his arms, forcibly breaking the hand sign and punching Yuta away, giving him no opportunity to use the technique. Having led Sukuna to focus on Limitless, Yuta pulls a hidden trick. Using Blue, he draws a voice recorder into the domain. The recorder plays Toge Inumaki's voice, commanding Sukuna to "don't move," paralyzing the stunned King of Curses. As Toga coughs up a large amount of blood outside the domain, Sukuna realizes the command came from the actual cursed speech user whose technique Yuta had copied. With Sukuna immobilized, Yuta completes the chant for Hollow Purple and prepares to fire the empowered technique straight at the King of Curses. The small domain's barrier ruptures, signaling the conclusion of Yuta's duel with Sukuna. The first to leap out is Sukuna, his face heavily injured and bloodied. He comments that while Yuta's hollow technique, Purple, struck him, Yuta's inexperience with the technique also caused him to destroy his own domain's barrier. Through the smoke, Yuji, Todo, and Yuta emerge and chase after Sukuna. Todo tells Yuta to fire off as many Hollow Purples as he can once he recovers his cursed technique, promising to use Boogie Woogie to move him and Yuji out of the crossfire. However, Yuta suddenly collapses. His copied brain transplant technique burns out from using domain expansion, causing the technique to end before the 5-minute mark. Yuta reflects that without Rika by his side, he no longer has access to copy. He also questions why Kenjaku's technique burned out along with Limitless, realizing that Kenjaku must have had a method to act freely after opening a domain, something Yuta didn't learn when he copied it. At his limit, Yuta resolves to at least maintain the shards of his barrier to aid Todo and Yuji in the fight. And with this, Yuta, just like Gojo, finally reaches his limit. But the battle is far from over as Todo and Yuji continue to face Sukuna. If you want to see more manga battles, comment your favorite one below, and I'll make a video on it.